What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by two of the greats, yes, two of the greats in this industry. One of them has always been here, the other one is returning from Phoenix, Arizona. Dame, Jurg, how are we this weekend? Specifically, Dame, who's coming back from another vacation.
I'll let Dame talk. I'm just happy that he's back. I've said the last couple weeks, we're always better together and forever. I'm happy the three of us are here, especially because next week, well, a little over a week time, depending on when the people listen to this, it'll be our 2-year anniversary of the pod. So yay!
Jesus Christ. It's been 2 years? Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
Veterans Day, in
Wow.
2020.
Wow, that's nuts. I'm good. Could be better if I was on another vacation, but here I am. This definitely makes it better to come back to. But other than that, I wish I was doing this in Arizona.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little. I mean, I can't even say it's getting cold in New York, man. We're still in the 60s and 70s for like the next few weeks, actually. So I don't know.
We're getting a random warm front in the East Coast. I don't know why.
You
but
know
we
what?
are.
It's global warming.
Yeah.
But man, I love my warm days though, especially when it's gonna be like I get seasonal depression. So the fact that it's gonna get delayed for a bit, I mean, what's global warming, right? Jeez, we're all gonna die anyway. But that's not why we're here. We are here to talk about sports, and we got news. So we got some NBA news. A specific team is collapsing day by day, much to the happiness of everyone on this podcast. Two people specifically, and they're in the news for the wrong reasons, and their coach just got fired. Or, you know what? I'm not even going to say fired. Mutually parted ways, because let's be honest, he knew what was going on. They're in the lookout for another coach. There's a few names on the market, but there's one in particular that they're looking at, and we're going to talk about that and what it could mean. And we're going to talk about the NFL trade deadline. We're recording a day after the NFL trade deadline. A lot of moves happened. Teams made moves. Other teams didn't make moves. And I'll say this, teams that didn't make moves should have made moves. But we're going to talk about all that. And then, of course, we're going to cap it off by giving our clowns and crowns for weeks 6 to 8. We're 3 weeks behind right now because, well, Dame's been worldwide. We just, it's kind of got lost in the sauce. But we didn't forget. And plus, there's a graphic on it coming up on somewhat.sports on IG. So if you've missed the previous Clowns and Crowns winners, they're going to be on Instagram where we give our NFL weekly picks of the week. So let's get straight to it, fellas. NBA world. The Brooklyn Nets are on the brink of collapsing, and it's so beautiful to watch. It's not beautiful to see what some of their players are doing, but Steve Nash has been quote unquote fired, or mutually parted ways with the organization, whatever the case may be. But the Nets are without a coach. Woj said it was Quinn Snyder, a few other names, and Ime Udoka. Ime Udoka, who was suspended by the Boston Celtics because of misconduct in the organization. He doesn't have a job at the moment. I think someone said that it's unlikely that he'll ever coach for the Celtics again. And now for the Nets, apparently that's the front runner because Woj tweeted it. And then I think Sean Marks, the GM of the Nets, said, no, not at all. But I don't know if Woj would just say that for no reason. I think this is 100% accurate. I think they're definitely eyeing Ime Udoka. Now, we'll talk about like the hiring of him in general, but like the thing is with Ime Udoka, I mean, everyone wants to talk about like the defensive potential and like he's there to possibly fix defensive shortcomings that the Nets clearly have. The Nets don't have a Marcus Smart. The Nets don't have a Robert Williams. The Nets do not have a Jaylen Brown. Even a Jason Tatum. For as much as we don't give him the superstar treatment like other people, the dude's pretty good on the defensive end. It's just that he has other players on his team that overshadow him defensively. I don't know, man. You're going to a Nets team with one superstar and one star, but with not a lot of defensive talent. I haven't like seen him with non-good defensive players to a point where it could be like, okay, he could elevate unknown guy and unknown other guy. So I don't know what he's walking into. From the Nets perspective, I think, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Like, there's a few things here. Like, it's clear because I think once it came out that they quote unquote fired Nash, they were like dead set on Ime Udoka. I think those other few names of like head coaches were just kind of thrown in there, but it's like they were kind of dead set on Ime Udoka, and then it said they were like focused on him to hire him as the coach. So it's clear that they've kind of been in on this for a while. They've kind of wanted him for a while. Now, I don't know why, because did we not do research about why he got suspended from the Boston Celtics in the first place? And the Nets are not in like the Nets are kind of in hot waters right now because of Kyrie Irving and him being an idiot. From a PR standpoint, this is awful. Why would you go after Ime Udoka? Like you have your own shit to deal with. He has his own shit to deal with. It's just there's so much shit going on with this organization. Um, it's beautiful to see them collapse because they're a piece of shit organization and they let children run the workplace. But I just don't know what you're doing hiring Ime Udoka. And like right after what's happening with like Kyrie Irving and all that, I just don't know the thought process here. I don't want to understand it because it's the Brooklyn Nets. They don't really operate as a functioning organization. So stupid people do stupid things. This just is not the right move right now. Like I don't think he deserves a shot to coach right away. I think Ime Udoka should stay away from the NBA. Like the fact that he's getting another head coaching opportunity is like right away from the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, it says a lot more about the Nets, but like, what are we doing here? I just don't get it. Jurg, talk to me here. What do we make of this whole situation?
A lot to unpack on this one, so
Yeah,
I'll start.
sorry, I rambled. I
Oh,
rambled.
yeah, you're good. You're good. You're good. The people want to hear your voice, Chris. Sources
Oh,
say that they want more Chris on the show.
please.
So, I'll start with Steve Nash first. I wasn't necessarily surprised that a firing of him took place this season. I thought from the offseason, one of two things was going to happen. Like, just step back in the time machine for a second. I thought with keeping Kyrie and KD, I thought the idea was that Nash was going to be gone at some point, even before the season started
Yeah, yeah.
for a brief moment. But because everything got settled like so late into the offseason, that kind of dashed those hopes. I also thought what was going to happen was if Kyrie and KD would have actually been traded, then Nash would have gotten this full season to like be the coach of this team without the two of them there. That's at least that's what my mindset was. Like, to be fair, like, you know, those two, with those two knuckleheads being gone, see what Steve Nash can do for a
Yeah.
year and then fire him after. So that's from that perspective. Look, at the end of the day, Steve Nash, it's a very tricky thing. When he got the head coaching job, there was a lot of uproar in it. From a media perspective of a undeserving head coach, a guy who shouldn't have become a head coach because he cut in line because of this, that, and the third. The big reason, of course, at the end of the day was because Kyrie and KD handpicked him because they didn't want a real coach to be there. Like, let's call a spade a spade.
No, this is why it's so mind-boggling to me.
Yeah,
Now they want an actual coach.
yeah, yeah. It was wild to say the least. And now that the two of them make this decision to get rid of him because he what like just the inconsistencies, the going back against what they thought and said before, it's just wild to me. Like, they hired him because, you know, yes, he's intelligent, but they didn't view him as the coach. Kyrie literally flat out said, like, we like something along the lines of, we don't need a coach, or we don't view him as a coach, when he was there. Like, these two, like, I don't even want to deem them the name Agents of Chaos, because there is another podcast out there that's trying to make that a
Mm,
popular thing.
mm.
But these two morons have demeaned him. They've made his word useless, as we saw in the summer when Cam Thomas was like,
Oh God,
when they asked him during the summer league game, like, what can you learn from Steve Nash, and he kind of shrugged it off, like,
he rolled
sir,
his eyes.
that's like a 15-year veteran, and you're a second-year player still wet behind the ears, as Stephen A. Smith would say, breath smelling like Similac. How dare you brush off a future Hall of Famer when you somehow know so much? But it, at the end of the day, I kind of feel bad for Steve Nash, because let's be real here. Anyone would have taken the position to be a head coach for a first time. And you're Steve Nash, you're a player development guy in Golden State. I'm sure he wanted to do this. And then he gets this opportunity. He thought, okay, I have some connection with KD from Phoenix, from our time in Golden State. I know Kyrie a little bit. Let's see if I could work this. And I think Steve Nash proved, showed off that it was tough. The talent was there. They won games. They were like 30 games above 500. But it was clear that it just wasn't a good fit anymore in the organization, because the two superstars showed that they didn't want him anymore. And at the end of the day, like, that's why Joe Tsai's statement, I kind of brushed it aside, because you've shown already that you're willing to really bend the knee so deliberately for KD and Kyrie. His words kind of mean nothing in terms of this situation, most situations, that when it comes to these two. So I sort of feel bad for Steve Nash on that end of things. In terms of clearly and deliberately wanting to hire Ime Udoka, I get wanting to hire the candidate you want. I really do get it. I don't blame you. If you think someone is the best person for a job, you're more than willing to have your favorite. It's your right as a hiring organization. But at the same time, though, like you couldn't have picked the worst possible time to want to hire a guy that was suspended from an organization for a year for the reasons why he was suspended, like less than 24, 48 hours after one of your two superstars said and doubled down on some utterly stupid things. So you mentioned PR at this point, Chris. It's like the Nets are looking at the whole Dan Snyder debacle in the NFL. It's like, we're not going to become that level of scumbag, but we should try to match up to it in some way, shape, or form. Like it's. It, I don't know how to describe it. Like Udoka is a fine coach, but like you said, Chris, there can be some questions because last year was his very first year. The Celtics did great, but there are a lot of things that broke right with that team in the second half of the year. They were a middling team in the first half. They caught on fire in the second half. They of course made it to the NBA Finals, two wins away from a championship, all the good things. But this is a very different team structure than what he had in Boston. If we're just strictly looking at the on court stuff now, which we kind of have to do because he is likely going to be the head coach, there are differences in structure. There are differences in the player personnel. You do not have a big man good as Robert Williams. Like you said, you do not have a perimeter defender as good as Marcus Smart. I hate to say that, but I don't know if I can defend Ben Simmons anymore. This has just been a terrible start to the season
Yo.
for him. Like, it's just like you mentioned, things are coming undone. None of this has to do with the talent. It all just has to do with the mindset of this organization. And like you said, at the end of the day, they've let two children run the world. This is a really deep pull, Chris, and Dame from our childhoods. But remember that like Fairly Odd Parent special when like Timmy wished that kids would rule the world and the adults were like locked
Mm-hmm.
up. Yeah, this reminds me of that, and honestly, it's arguably going worse. It's arguably getting worse, and that says a lot at the end of the day. Yeah, Kyrie and KD have made this organization a laughing stock for a while. The Nets have tried to make New York a Brooklyn town for as much of an absolute idiot James Dolan has been for the last 2 decades. Kyrie and KD have outdone him in the last couple of years,
That
which is
saying something.
I never thought I'd see the day. So yeah.
Yeah, you guys said a lot of the stuff that I was gonna say, but I completely agree that I'm not surprised at all that the Nets went in this direction or seemingly look like they're going in this direction. They've been a shit show ever since Kyrie and KD got there. From overpaying DeAndre Jordan because that's what KD and Kyrie wanted instead of making the right basketball move. So then hiring Steve Nash as your coach when Kenny Atkinson was clearly a better coach, but KD and Kyrie just can't listen to authority and can't be coached. So they needed someone who they could step over and kind of not listen to no matter what. So it's just on and on. Then just the whole Kyrie situation last year, the KD trade request, like it just doesn't stop with this team and all the drama and chaos that comes with having these two on your team. And then obviously now with Ime Udoka, if they get him, it's just gonna be questions and questions every single press conference, and obviously New York media doesn't stop. So that's gonna be even worse for them. And it, like you could get mad, but it's just a repeated pattern with the Nets organization over and over again. So you really can't be surprised. You can't be like, why are they doing this? Like you know why they're the Nets. This is what they do. It's kind of like with the Kings. Like why are they making this stupid basketball operations move? Like they're the Kings. They just don't know what they're doing. Um, my thing is the only thing. Just this is strictly because I'm biased and I hate the Nets. Why are the Celtics giving him up for nothing? Go get some draft pick compensation or something from them.
I think
So
they just want to get rid of him, man. Like he's not
that's
worth it to them.
that's true. I guess it helps their PR to like
Yeah, yeah.
want to get rid of him. That's fine. But yeah, overall, just the Nets. I'm just really not surprised because there's a constant theme within that organization that they just can't escape drama.
Yeah. A few things and we can move on. I do feel bad for Steve Nash. Sure, you're right. I agree with you, man. He's like the scapegoat in all this. It's just I mostly blame Kyrie because he's an idiot. I also blame the Nets organization because like you kind of allow this to happen. Like I always like I remember when Katie and Kyrie went there, and I was depressed when they signed with the Nets, obviously. But you know, it's the closest thing for players to running an organization without actually owning the team, right? Because that's what they do. They run the team basically. Katie, I'll give him somewhat praise and to be like he's kind of had to handle the burden and all this because like of Kyrie's nonsense, and like he's the one that has to handle the questions and all that. And I think from that perspective, I'm like, okay, a little bit of props to you, but like this is also on him too, man. Like KD is just like, I just want to hoop this and that. I'm like, brother, the type of player you are, you can't really just hoop, man. Like you're the face of the franchise, top 10 player in the NBA. It's not like that. And I think all decisions from a basketball standpoint, like personnel wise, roster move wise, I think they went to KD through for all of them. Like I think he has like a majority say in what they want to do and what they have to do because like they have to appeal to him. So the fact that he's just like been so loyal to Kyrie, I think it's like fuck them so much. Now personally, I don't care because fuck the Nets, they deserve this shit. You kind of dug yourself into your own grave. But man, it's just KD like zero accountability from him or from Kyrie. But from Kyrie, I don't expect that. Like the lack of self awareness from him, that like that dude's gone. I think he's just done. Um, but yeah, I think everyone's to blame here from the Nets organization. It's KD, it's Kyrie, it's Sean Marks and Joe Tsai. These dudes have done the most clown shit.
It's an environment where they've been allowed to do as they please, and they essentially can say and do. Let's be real here. Like
Go ahead.
I don't know. I was just looking at just to your point about Kevin Durant really quick, like the whole I just want to play ball. You're not allowed to have that mindset when you're one of the two reasons that the head coach was hired.
Yeah,
You're not allowed to have that mindset when the head coach before Steve Nash was fired, because this is now the third head coach we're going on for the KD and Kyrie tenure in Brooklyn. Can you believe that? It hasn't even been 5 years, and they're already about to be on their third head coach. Like, most teams are not able to get away with that. Um, and like with KD is specifically, like I understand it because it's really wild to think that he's been more of an adult in this situation. But I guess when the other superstar is Kyrie, that's not a high standard to go over. But he at the same time, you can't say, I just want a ball, but you put your name in the ring in terms of deciding the head coach. You try to put your name in the ring in terms of a roster. You try to dictate where you want to be traded, being like, I want this guy, that guy, and this guy to still be on the team after I'm traded. You're not allowed to say that you only care about ball if you're going to be that heavily involved. Pick
yeah,
one.
you're right.
In this case, it's literally one or the other. Let the organization do their thing, or shut up. Like, I don't want to give the connotations of what certain other TV network personalities have, but just shut up. You're clearly there's a reason why, like, Katie, remember that whole thing a long while ago where he was like, I don't want to be second place anymore. Bro, you're not even second place. You're not even on the podium at this point. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. LeBron will always be better than you. Steph has been idolized by the people over you, and he won a championship without you. And Giannis has always just been more likable than him. And now
Yeah,
he
yeah.
won the championship for his franchise. So on all three of those ends, KD legacy get screwed over, because at this point, like, for him, my sympathy is just about ran out. What little I did have it's about ran out.
Oh, I never had sympathy for KD.
I just mean I have sympathy for anyone that has to do with Kyrie Irving. That's just my
Well,
standard
I mean,
principle.
yeah, that. Well, like, but the thing is, like, Steve Nash has my sympathy. KD doesn't, because he knew exactly what he was walking into, and he lets this shit happen, bro.
He
But he
signed
doesn't
the
care though.
extension. He could have got out of it.
He doesn't care. That's the thing. I don't. I'm genuinely curious to see what's gonna happen, like in the next week or two with this team. Right? It's just I can't believe like there's so like every year it's something different. Like Kyrie really outdoes himself with the dumb shit that he says. I just it's. I mean, look, it gives us something to talk about. Dame, I want to ask you before we move on. Steve Nash, player development coach for the Knicks. What do you
Yeah,
feel about that?
I was gonna mention that to you too.
I like that idea.
I like it as well.
I like that
I like
idea.
it
It
as
could
well.
help out IQ, tighten his handles. It could also help out Brunson, but it also help.
And obviously, RJ having RJ there, yeah. I definitely like that move. And just stick it fuck you to the Nets by taking him too. So
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
yeah. I would love that move for them too. Yeah. And like I feel the vibes in the Knicks, they're great. I think like just these young guys, and the young guys will definitely respect Steve Nash for sure. And I actually think he'll be of use for like our guards on the team. But yeah, all right, we can move on to the NFL world because the NFL trade deadline has come and it is now gone. Fellas, we're recording Wednesday. Trade deadline passed on Tuesday. Moves have happened. We're gonna talk about some moves now. As I pull up the list here, I'm gonna mention players that didn't get moved. Okay. Shout out to Jurg who did all the research for this. So Jurg, you're the goat. All right, players that didn't get moved that were rumored to get moved. Kareem Hunt, Brandon Cooks, AJ Green, Jerry Judy. Surprised about that. Mike Gesicki, Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims. Now those are a few notable names. Clearly not all of them, but a few notable names that didn't get moved. Fellas, is there anyone here? Dame, let me start off with you in the players that didn't get move list that I just mentioned that you were surprised about?
I would probably, if I had to pinpoint one, I'd just say Brandon Cooks, and the reason being is because I feel like he always just gets moved. I feel like there's not one player in the NFL history that's just been traded for. If you just put together all the draft picks he's been traded for, I don't think any player has been traded for more. But the Texans are a rebuilding team. He's kind of getting old. It's not like he's a young guy like DJ Moore that you can kind of rebuild with, and have as a foundational piece for your next QB. Like again, he's obviously still good, but I think they probably could have got a pretty good day two pick, maybe like a third round pick for him to like the Rams or the Packers or some other team that was interested in him. I think they definitely probably should have moved him. Like I said, I forgot. I don't know how old he is, but I know he's not DJ Moore's age, like 25. Maybe he is, but
I think he's like
regardless.
no. Brandon Cooks is like 28, 29.
Yeah, there you go. Like he's nearing that age where like he's not gonna be that guy anymore. I think they should have maximized his value because obviously they're gonna go for a new QB, right? Like they're gonna draft a new guy. Davis Mills obviously isn't him. The experiment is over, so they should have just got as much draft ammo as possible to start building a team around that next quarterback because Brandon Cooks probably isn't gonna be that guy once the next QB is there. So I think Brandon Cooks is the most surprising.
Okay, Jurg.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with the sentiment. Had Dame not said Brandon Cooks, I definitely would have said him because I think he was
Yeah,
a popular name. I think it had something to do with his contract at the end of it. I think that's why Houston didn't move him. I forget. I was hearing about it earlier today, but it slipped my mind now, sadly, of what the reason was. But I know there was a reason behind it.
No,
But
I'll just say next year he's guaranteed. It's guaranteed $18 million. So
right, right.
you can't cut him. You can't get out of it. $18 million against your cap.
Yeah, and that's definitely a big reason. That's why like Houston just I could definitely see a case where Houston was probably trying to get a lot for him like other teams have, but because of that 18 mil they weren't able to. So that's probably the main reason. For me, aside from Brandon Cooks, if I had to name another player or two, I would say between Kareem Hunt and Mike Gesicki. Gesicki might be shocking to some people, but there have been trade rumors throughout this first half of the season as to why Gesicki could have potentially been dealt because he's just not a scheme fit in Miami. Like he's not the kind of tight end that Shanahan / McDaniel coaching philosophy wants in terms of being a blocker. As great as George Kittle is, we know he's a blocker. We know he's been used as like a sixth offensive lineman in certain packages. Gesicki just is not that. And there were legitimate rumors earlier in the season that he could have been dealt. So I kind of thought it would happen, but as the season has progressed and now that the Dolphins have a like legitimate shot, of course, of being a wild card team and maybe challenging the Bills. It all depends on how they both finish out in that second game between the two teams. But it didn't surprise me at the end of the day that they kept him. I'm kind of shocked with Kareem Hunt because I just like this entire season, even more so than the Gesicki situation in Miami. I just thought that the situation just went to a place where, okay, it makes sense to move them. I'm sure there were, I think, plenty of teams that would have gone for Kareem Hunt. In terms of like the Rams, for example, I think if you're talking about NFC teams that could have gone for him, I'm sure a team in the AFC that is like probably escaping me at the moment, even though the Browns, excuse me, like 50-50 on trading in the AFC, but if the plan isn't to contend. So I don't know. And again, heavy rumors about the player in the weeks leading into it. I thought it would have happened. It's one of those, both guys are in a situation where it's like you heard their name in trade rumors so much, but it doesn't happen. And you're just kind of like, why? Like, why didn't the trade go through? So I would say the biggest shock for me is Kareem Hunt and Gesicki, just off of the basis of I've heard their names several times throughout the first half of the season. I expected it, and it didn't happen. So I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of surprising. But other than that, like the rest of the guys, I think there's probably a little bit more reason as to why they were kept. But though I think the three we've named are probably like the three names that most people were waiting to see the notification for that so and so got moved.
are you guys surprised that Jerry Judy was in trade rumors? Because I was. I'm like, why would Denver want to trade Jerry Judy? I don't understand. Could someone like fill me in? Like, did I miss something?
I personally think they are slowly starting to realize that they fucked up by trading for Russell Wilson, and they're just trying to stockpile picks because clearly there's no reason to trade Bradley Chubb, your outstanding pass rusher. I know he's about to get paid, but you're paying nobody on that defense. You got rid of Von Miller to not pay him because you're rebuilding, and Bradley Chubb's a star at 25, 26 years old. I forgot what he is. I get he misses time, but he's still a cornerstone of that defense. Like the only guy you're gonna pay anytime soon is Patrick Surtain, and I guess Justin Simmons. But you need an edge rusher to be successful in the NFL, and just trading him just slowly makes me think that deep down in that front offense, they know they fucked up by trading for Russell Wilson by getting rid of all their draft picks. So even if Russell Wilson doesn't work out, they can't rebuild or anything like that. So I think slowly they're gonna they were trying to get rid of certain guys that wouldn't really kill their team because they still have Corlin Sutton, they still have KJ Hamler, they still have receivers that can get it done. So I think they were just trying to get draft picks here and there to kind of recorpse their draft pick stockpile.
But like he's a foundational piece though. Like Judy's
I
still
get it,
young.
I get it, I get it. But he's also had a lot of drop problems. He has had problems catching the ball as of late. And he's just a guy that they probably could have got they were looking for a second round pick, and I feel like second round pick probably would be best for them. Especially since they're about to pay him too. And I think is next year this offseason or next offseason, one way or another.
He would have been a free agent.
Yeah, he would have been a free agent, so they're gonna have to pay him anyway. In that draft class, you have guys like CeeDee Lamb, so he's gonna ask for a lot of money as well. And you obviously paid Russell Wilson $50 million a year, so you got to kind of save some money on that offense. So I think I wouldn't say they prioritized kind of moving him, but they were gonna listen to offers, which I completely get, because you traded 3 first-round picks to get Russell Wilson. Like that's on you, and you got to try to right that mistake.
Yeah. He is a talented player, but kind of what Dame said, there have been some issues in terms of him and Russ getting on the same page this year. But also the fact that Jerry Jeudy, like kind of what Dame was alluding to, like this offseason, he's due a contract extension. Next season, he's going to be a free agent. And I don't see them. He was a first round pick, correct me if I'm wrong. So there's the 5th year option. I don't think they're going to exercise that. And if they're not going to exercise it, that kind of means that he's got to prove himself. And if he proves himself and he balls out, they got to pay him. And like Dame said, you paid that overrated bum all that money to be your quarterback. And it's the golden rule. Once you pay your quarterback, you got to start, looking at places on the roster where you could save. And a wide receiver who has shown flashes but hasn't broken out the way you've expected him to, you could get a second round pick back, which another wide receiver was traded for a second round pick, and that dude wasn't worth a second round pick. So I don't know. It's like I think that's probably the main reason why Jerry Jeudy was brought up, and also like the Broncos, they when healthy is the stress. They actually have a decent wide receiving core where Jeudy trading him is not the biggest loss, but they've had issues the last couple of years in terms of health with some of their guys like Tim Patrick and there's one more receiver whose name is escaping me. I think Hamler. If those two guys had been healthy each of the last 2 seasons, I think they would have actually just traded Jeudy already, because I think those two guys can make up, at least one of them can make up for his role overall in the offense. So I think that's probably why they were thinking to trade him, Chris. But like Dame said, probably just nothing materialized that they wanted to, so they just decided to keep him for now. And they could revisit this in the offseason for sure. I think they'll have to, considering what Russell Wilson's cap hit is going to end up escalating to. So, yeah.
Okay. Notable teams that did not make a move. I guess we'll put the Jets and Giants here, Jurg. We talked about this before we recorded. Like they kind of, they did make moves because the Giants traded Kadarius Toney for some picks to the Chiefs, and the Jets traded for James Robinson from the Jaguars. So, and we kind of talked about both moves last week, but they didn't make any last minute moves. You guys could talk about whether or not you think they should have made moves, considering the fact that they both have winning records. We don't know how long those will be sustainable for, but you know what? We have to talk about them. But other notable teams, the Bucks, the Rams, the Packers. I think I have a feeling we know which team we're gonna highlight here.
Yeah.
In the notable teams that didn't make a move list. Who do you guys want to start off with? The thing is, like, I heard rumors that the Rams offered 2 picks for Burns from the Panthers.
I saw that.
I don't even know where the Rams are getting these picks. They didn't get Burns. The trade didn't end up materializing. I think the the Carolina Panthers want to hold on to him, and rightfully so. Like him and DJ Moore, there was no reason to trade him. Like they traded McCaffrey, they got like that plethora of picks. I think those are two young foundational pieces you could kind of build upon. So I get why they didn't trade him. But yeah, the Rams made no moves. I don't even think the Rams have the capital to make moves. The Bucks, I don't know about them either. I don't. I mean, the Bucks are a mess right now. But let's talk about the Packers. They didn't make any moves. I don't know the reasoning why. I'll never know the reasoning why. I think, well, I mean, Brandon Cooks was kind of, thrown into that mix of like maybe he could go to the Packers, but you guys kind of touched upon his contract. I think the next likely name was Chase Claypool, but he did end up getting traded, but
To the NFC North.
yeah, which was kind of surprising. But he got traded to another team, not the Packers. And we'll talk about the Chase Claypool trade, but they stay put. And I don't know if they make the playoffs now. I mean, I thought this was like their only chance to kind of get Rodgers at like number one. And look, I want to give a shout out to Romeo Dobbs because that dude has been awesome to watch. But besides him and like the usual Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, like he doesn't have like that reliable weapon. I guess they're throwing a Hail Mary to the OBJ sweepstakes, but who knows how that will materialize. But Jurg, let me start off with you. Thoughts on the Packers' lack of movement?
Not surprised. This has just been their philosophy. And not just the last year, not just the last 2 years, not even just the last 5 years. This has been 30 years of the Green Bay Packers. When they had Brett Favre, uh, I think people forget in context that the Packers have been blessed with great to elite quarterback play for the last 3 decades. And we take that for granted. But it comes a time where you look at the fact that they've only won 2 Super Bowls with those two guys, and you got to start asking questions, man. And part of that is just the overall front office philosophy that has existed with this team for a long time, that they just don't trade draft picks at the NFL trade deadline. They're just set in their ways. And we know this Chris and Dame in terms of, teams, athletes, organizations, and even people in our personal lives. When some people are just set in their ways, they're never going to change. They're way too hard-headed for it. And I think that's just what the Packers is. It's not surprising. Is it disappointing? Can you really be disappointed when this is like the 5th year in a row that we've been asking for them to get something for Aaron Rodgers and they haven't? like, no, at the end of the day, I'm not surprised. Cooks, uh, Claypool, Judy, maybe. So many different names that they maybe could have reached out. Reach out to the Jets even for Denzel Mims or more even. Like, just do something. Like, this is my problem with the organization. I don't even think they bother sometimes because they got outbid for Chase Claypool, and I'm sure they said no to another receiver or two because the asking price was quote-unquote too much. When you have a guy like an Aaron Rodgers, I know he hasn't been playing great this season, but it's clear that losing Devontae Adams was a big reason for that because they were too stubborn to pay him. This is all in the organization. Like, yes, the offense has underperformed. Yes, the offensive coordinators have been iffy in Green Bay this season. Yes, the offensive line has not been great. To me, you always got to go from the top, and the organization not paying Devontae Adams when they should have, disrespecting him, making it to a place where he wanted to be traded. It all comes back to this, and it all comes back to that philosophy that if they're never going to change it, oh well. And like I shared on my personal IG earlier, but I'll say it again, I can't wait for Aaron Rodgers to eventually leave or retire, and they become like a 4-win team because that's what this specific front office deserves for that to happen to this organization. They don't deserve to be a winning team right now, and I'm glad they aren't because this does not look like a front office that actually cares about winning right now. And that's weird to say because this is usually one of the premier franchises in the NFL. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I'm not surprised, and I can't even say I'm disappointed anymore. I expect this.
So obviously the Packers' number one need was to get a wide receiver, right? Like this has been their need since honestly Aaron Rodgers got drafted. Um, and they just refuse to do it, whether it's in free agency, whether it's in the first round of the draft, no matter what, they just don't get it done for Aaron Rodgers. And they had the opportunity to get wide receivers in at this trade deadline. Chase Claypool reportedly, the Packers also offered a second round pick for him, but the Steelers just thought that the Bears second round pick would be higher than the Packers. At this point, who knows? Because the Packers suck. Like you could have the Bears might end up with a better record than the Packers because God knows how bad the Packers are going to be. But if that was the case, you should have just added whether it was a player, a mid round pick, or a future pick, like not even this draft, 2 years from now, any kind of pick to top that. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Why you wouldn't just, if you were already willing, granted, second round pick for Chase Claypool is absolutely ridiculous. That's just put it out there. But if you're already willing to go that far, you might as well just add something smaller, whether it's a draft pick or a player, to get the deal done. Also, they reportedly, the Broncos' asking price for Jerry Jeudy was a second round pick and a mid round pick. So it probably would have been like a 2 and a 4 or 2 and a 5, something along those lines. If you're the Packers, if you're willing to give up a second round pick for Chase Claypool, why wouldn't you do that? And a mid round pick for Jerry Jeudy, who's 100 times better than Chase Claypool, and I think is a lot more talented. He obviously maybe hasn't had the production that his talent like is, or his potential is, but the talent and potential is obviously there. He's never had good QB play. You put him with a guy like Aaron Rodgers. You finally give Aaron Rodgers a first round receiver, a first round talented receiver, and see what he could do with him. Like, you don't have long left with Aaron Rodgers. You know Jordan Love isn't the guy. Like, inside reports from Packers are that he's not the guy, and they're nervous about him moving forward. So it just doesn't make sense to me why you have these prices on two receivers that are available at the deadline, and you just don't pull the trigger. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. But at the end of the day, like Jurg said, I'm not surprised at all.
All right. Okay, let's actually talk about moves that occurred, and I think this is a good segue to the Chase Claypool trade. Chase Claypool gets traded to the Chicago Bears. I think him getting traded was something that people expected. The Bears, I think, came out of left field though. I think, yeah, that was pretty surprising. So the Steelers trade Chase Claypool to the Chicago Bears for a second round pick. So I guess the main details in that trade is that Chase Claypool got traded for a second round pick. If you're the Bears, well, what? I get getting Justin Fields, some help and getting him like a weapon. Sure, whatever. Chase Claypool, a second round pick for Claypool. I don't understand that. I really don't, and especially because you're the Bears. Like, you're not gonna be like, even when you're good, you're not fully good. Like, you're still kind of ass. What are you giving away picks for? Like, didn't you just trade Robert Quinn for like a fourth pick? Like, aren't you in the? This is what I'm talking about. Like, I talked to Jurg about this last week. They're like in the middle of like rebuilding, but also not. What? Huh? Chase Claypool of all people? That's who you're bending over backwards for? I guess. I mean, I think you're gonna echo my sentiments here. It's the Bears. We can't expect much. Whatever. I guess they seem to be like. I guess they think they could make like a wild card push. I don't know. I mean, look, for the Steelers, Chase Claypool's kind of been in the mix to get traded for a while now. They get rid of him. The Steelers look like they're not going to make the playoffs, in my humble opinion. All due respect, of course. You get a second round pick in return. I think it's a W for them. Dame, what you make of this trade?
Man, I don't know what the Bears are doing. And I hate the Steelers. And not that I hate them, I just don't like them. And it got me mad that they got a second round pick for Chase Claypool, because I don't think he's an all right receiver, but I don't think he's a good receiver, and definitely not worth the second round pick. I know he's a second round pick when he was drafted, but he's not worth it now. He has a year and a half left to control. And usually when you draft a guy, you kind of got to put him into your system, and there's a lot of unknown. Like, you don't know who he could be. You know, he could be a lot better than you expected. He could be worse than you expected. But you know you have a Trace Claypool, and he's absolutely not worth the second round pick. Um, I don't know if this is just a message to the Bears that they believe in Justin Fields and they want to give him help, or they want to evaluate him more by getting him weapons. But this is not the weapon to do it with. If you're gonna give up a second round pick, like I mentioned, the Jerry Jeudy asking price is a second round pick and a mid round pick. Like, you go get that done instead. But I guess, or maybe they were just trying to just top the Packers, make sure the Packers don't get him. I don't know. I don't know why you're even worried about the Packers. So that probably doesn't make sense. But A+ for the Steelers. I mean, to get a second round pick, like I said, for Chase Claypool, while you still have Deontay Johnson, George Pickens looks like he's gonna be a solid receiver in this league. So you kind of already have your 1-2. And just to get another second round pick, you could do anything with that. You could use it to move up for a QB. You could draft a QB in the second round. You could do a lot with that second round pick. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what the Bears are doing. I think it's a massive overpay, but we'll see how it goes. I guess they just want to evaluate Justin Fields even more.
The Chicago Bears are something, aren't they? I'm not going to waste too much time because that's more airtime than what this organization deserves on this show, and I hope this is going to be the last time this season we have to talk about them on the show. Please, please, please. Unless they bench Justin Field, then I will gladly tear into that organization. Ryan Poles got fleeced. Let's be real here. Second round pick for Chase Claypool is just a funny thing. They traded Roquan Smith for a second and a fifth. Which I forget if we actually talked about that last week or not. I completely forgot. But
Oh, I don't think we did. I guess we could bring that up.
my bad on that, Chris, because I completely forgot if we did or not. But yeah, they traded Roquan Smith to the Baltimore Ravens for a second and a fifth, and they turn around and trade for Chase Claypool and they give up a second. Huh? Eh, this organization, I how is it that you can make Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace look competent? Because this is bad. Bro, this is bad. I can't believe I'm saying this. I think Ryan Pace would have gotten more out of a Roquan Smith trade, and I think he wouldn't have given as much for Chase Claypool. The fact I need to say that about Pace, the fact that Justin Fields looks maybe you could argue worse under Eberflus than he did under Matt Nagy. No, I'm sorry. I don't care if it's been a year. I would strongly be considering firing these clowns right now. This is terrible. This is terrible. Either that or just be straight up with them. Look, we're not dealing with this. If you don't want Justin Fields here anymore, tell me now and we're gonna make it clear to him and we're gonna find him a new home in the offseason. I'm so sick and tired of him as a young quarterback being jerked around by these two absolute buffoons who shouldn't be doing this to him. So if you clearly don't want him to be better and you don't want him for the future, let it be known now and let's make the moves that, because you're telling me allegedly this is to help Justin Fields. I'm sorry, where's the help? Chase Claypool is to help him? No, out, get out, both of you, figure this out. I'm done with this team. Move on, please.
All right. Well, let's segue into the move that we kind of forgot to talk about. They trade Roquan Smith to the Ravens for a second and a fifth, Jurg.
Yep.
Okay. We don't need to talk about it from the Bears' perspective because I think we just kind of touched upon that. The Ravens. I was surprised that the Ravens are the ones that traded for him because I think they need help in other areas, wide receiver, than the defensive end. But I guess, strengthen what's already kind of good for you. Yeah, this was kind of confusing across all cylinders. I mean, the Bears got a second and a fifth. That kind of, counterintuitive knowing that they gave up a second for the Chase Claypool trade. I guess, like, whatever. I don't even want to get into that. But yeah, Jurg, what'd you make of this move?
Like for Baltimore, it kind of surprised me because I thought they would have gone after maybe some defensive back depth because their defensive back room has been getting hurt. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Marcus Williams, isn't he out for the season or he's at least out for a while? So
I'll check.
I know there have been injuries to this cornerback and safety room, so I thought they maybe would have gone after a corner or safety, but perhaps they didn't just like it and were like, you know what, let's just go after the next best thing. A guy who is currently, I think, the NFL leading tackler. He can get after the quarterback a little bit. He's not a pass rusher, but Baltimore system I think can make Roquan Smith look really good. I mean, you're not going to tell me adding Roquan Smith is a loss, so good on Baltimore. It was weird. Like, I'm not shocked they went for defense. I'm shocked at the position that they went for. That's my thoughts on it.
Okay, Marcus Williams is not out for the season. He's placed on the IR, and
Mm-hmm.
he will miss a significant amount of time.
Okay, so
I guess all but confirmed.
Let's translate that. He gone.
Yeah, Dame.
Yeah, I think this is a great move for the Ravens. I don't think linebacker, especially inside linebacker, is their weakness at all. Like Jurg mentioned, I think if they were going to go the defensive route, it was better to go D-back, or just find another edge rusher. Like, you never have enough edge rushers. But I think the last thing they needed on that defense is an inside linebacker. But I mean, for the price to pay for Roquan Smith, who's arguably been the best inside linebacker in the entire NFL this year, I think you take it every single time. I guess you just can't have enough good players on defense. One way or another is going to work out. Do I think they probably should have used their draft assets to get a wide receiver, say a Jerry Jeudy or something like that? Yes. But I mean, for the price, you can't. Sometimes you just can't pass up the price, no matter what your need is or whatever it is. It's like kind of when during the draft, you kind of go best available instead of your positional need. So I think that's kind of situation. But for the Bears, I mean, It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense why you give up your best defensive player for a second and fifth round pick. Like, he's young. He's not nearing an age where he's about to decline or anything like that. Like, he's young and arguably the best middle inside linebacker in the entire NFL. Like, I don't get why you just give him away like that. But again, not surprised if it's the Bears, but I get why the Ravens will do it.
Okay. All right. Other notable moves. TJ Hawkinson gets traded from the Detroit Lions to the Minnesota Vikings for a 2023 second and fourth round pick, a 2024 third and conditional fourth round pick. The fourth will become a fifth if the Vikings win a playoff game. This one kind of came out of left field. I think I know the reason why they traded for TJ Hawkinson was because Irv Smith, I think, is out for 8 to 10 weeks. He's out for the season. Let's just keep it a buck. The Vikings, I think they're 6-1, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, so the Vikings, they're winning right now, and they're winning. I don't want to say they're contenders. they have Kirk Cousins, but like they look like they want to go all in, and fuck it, you get another weapon in T.J. Hawkinson. I think their team on paper is, I think, really good when you look at it. Like, Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins, but you have Justin Jefferson, you have your Dalvin Cook, you have your Adam Thielen. Now you have T.J. Hawkinson. He has a lot of weapons to play with here, and I think the Vikings, they got better. They got better. Yeah, I was shocked. I think this season didn't go the way the Lions thought it would. I'm not saying that the Lions are going to be straight up winners, but also didn't think they'd only have one win, right? And I think this kind of signals that this might be a long lost season for them. It's kind of signals like somewhat of a punting of a season, but yeah, I mean, look, you get some draft capital there. I guess they're still in a rebuild, not an issue. And shout out to T.J. Hawkinson. Like, yeah, you go to Minnesota, but I'm talking about the city of Minnesota. Like, you go there, but they're a winner. They're winning right now, and it seems to me that they're gonna win the division. So you probably went to a playoff team. So who did I end off with? I think Dame. Dame, what'd you make of this move? And what do you make of this move for fantasy owners of T.J. Hawkinson?
Well, that I'll leave for last. But for the Lions, like you said, it kind of feels like a punt for a season. I don't know why they traded him. He's their best offensive pass catcher. I know Ahmad St. Brown is there, but I think T.J. Hawkins is a little better because he's just bigger. He's a bigger target for your quarterback. And I know Jared Goff is not the quarterback of the future, but he's been playing pretty well. And the Lions are playing competitive against these teams. Like, it's just their defense that's pretty bad. I get it. I think they need to pay T.J. Hawkinson this offseason or next offseason, but you're really not paying anybody in that offense. So I don't know why you wouldn't just pony up and pay him. They're clearly going to draft a quarterback in this upcoming draft, and why not have a guy like T.J. Hawkinson there where he can rely on? Tight ends are usually young quarterback safety blankets, and to have a guy like T.J. Hawkinson would be great for next QB coming in. So that doesn't make sense to me, but they did get a lot of value for him. I think a second, third, and fourth or something like that. Something along those lines. And now they have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds. Like, they have multiple draft picks to kind of move up and down the board when it comes to draft day, or just draft multiple players at positions of need to rebuild. For the Vikings, I love the move. They're a lot better than many expected. And now you just add T.J. Hawkinson to offense that's already loaded with star power with Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson. I think it just adds another element to that offense. And it's going to be really exciting to watch. But yeah, I love it for the Vikings. Kind of confusing for the Lions, but I also get it if you just don't want to pay him and you kind of want to punt the season. But yeah, it was a fun trade. Definitely not something I expected, but it's fun. As for fantasy, I don't really think it changes much because although T.J. Hawkinson was the number one pass catching option on the Lions,
Doesn't feel like it.
all right, well, that's all I was gonna say. Just because it's a bad offense, that's the thing. But now, although he goes to a good offense with a better quarterback in Kirk Cousins, he's still behind Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson. I think, and who's the number one target in that offense to throw to, and or who to get the ball to. So I don't think much is going to change. Maybe an extra touchdown or two when they get to the goal line because he's a big threat down there. But other than that, I don't think it changes much.
All right, Jurg.
Like, it's tough because this is a guy, former first round pick, high pick from the Lions a couple years ago, but it just hasn't worked out in Detroit. It really hasn't. Like, the intangibles that Hawkinson brings is nice. We're talking about a guy who's 6'5", about 250 pounds. Like, was compared to Gronk coming out, which, like, let's be real here, every like 6'4", 6'5" white tight end is going to be compared to Gronk for the next decade or so. So you look at it, like, aside from the Seattle game where he put up like the big game of the season, which was 8 catches, 179 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like
Everyone
some of,
else was kind of hurt on that game too.
and
So
here's the thing: some of his other games, he had 3 catches, 26 yards, 1 catch for just 6 yards the week after that game, getting shut out against New England. 4 catches for 48 yards against Dallas. Like, T.J. Hawkinson is a talent on paper, and this has kind of been the story of his career. Even when you go back to last season, he only had one game last year. Okay, I'll be nice because one game he had 89 yards. He only had 2 games of over 90 yards last season, and then he only had like one other one that was above 70. Like, TJ Hawkinson is talented. He is great, but it's just too much inconsistency. And this is what I like about the move by Detroit here. If you aren't fully convinced to pay your guy, you got to trade him. And I like the fact that they're like, you know what? We're on the fence about paying him. If we're that much on the fence and we don't think we can decide right now, let's just get some assets back. I think that's actually a smart move for this team. What I hope it dictates is that they're actually going to commit to still building up a little bit, which is still giving a good old MCDC some time there in Detroit to be able to work things out, to try to develop that offense and maybe build up the offense a little bit more. I mean, they got Amon-Ra St. Brown there. They have DeAndre Swift there, so there's still some talented pieces there. Just build up that team a little bit different.
Jameson Williams is coming back.
Yeah, like, and you don't need, like, you can find success without first round tight ends. So maybe there's just a learning lesson for Detroit. So it sucks to lose a player of his caliber, but I don't think it's as big of a loss as people are expecting it to be in Detroit. I think it was a unfortunate, but I think it was the right move.
All right. We move on to another out of left field move, which came out of just nowhere. Yeah, the Jaguars trade for Calvin Ridley from the Atlanta Falcons with heavy conditions. If he's reinstated by a certain date, it's a 2023 fifth, otherwise it's a sixth. If he makes the team in 2024, then a 2024 pick is in play. If he makes the team in 2024, it's a fourth. If he hits playtime milestones, it's a third. If Jags sign him long term, it's a second. Greatest potential return for Atlanta is a 2023 fifth and a 2024 second. Guys, all right, Jurg, I'm gonna start off with you. What do we think? Clearly, this is a move for next year. I will say this, and I want both of you to talk about this. If Calvin Ridley, if this trade, kind of pans out and Calvin Ridley plays for the Jaguars like full time, everything's normal again. Pretty decent weapons for Trevor Lawrence, I might say. Like, yeah, I mean, these are two above average wide receivers, huh? Expectations next year for the Jaguars, pretty, it's the Jaguars at the end of the day, but I say they're pretty high at this point. Like, we thought they would be a little bit better this year. Doesn't look too hot, but I don't know, man. I think Calvin Ridley, is could be a very good wide receiver. So I kind of like him and Christian Kirk as a wide receiver duo there for Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, what do you guys make of this whole thing? Jerk, let me start with you.
So first off, Mamma Mia, that's a lot of conditions on those picks there, huh? It took me 5 minutes to decipher and understand that entire tweet for that condition breakdown. So I apologize if any of that is wrong, ladies and gentlemen, but cut me some slack. It took a little bit. No, if this works out for Jacksonville and they are able to get him back for next season properly, give him next year to like get ingratiated, give him a proper offseason to get ingratiated with the team, get some connection and chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. This could end up going really well for the Jags here. Calvin Ridley is a supremely talented wide receiver. I think he can make a couple game-changing plays. I think he would have been a great asset for Atlanta this year had he not gotten suspended. And yeah, I think he's just like, he can only be a positive for your offense. We just need to wait for him to be reinstated. And he also didn't get suspended for the stupidest thing in the world. It's not like, other sports that, they'll have their players will punch guys in the face or say terrible or, double down on saying terrible things to alienate groups of people and they don't get suspended. So pretty tame for what Calvin Ridley got suspended for in comparison. But yeah, I think Calvin Ridley, what he could potentially do here is, being that weapon for Trevor Lawrence, adding another weapon to the fold for Doug Peterson. But this is the true thing that Calvin Ridley brings. If he does get reinstated in time, and if he does pan out well, this gives the Jags the wiggle room to not have to invest in the skill position group in their next draft. They got to keep building the offensive line. They got to keep building up that defense a little bit. A move like Calvin Ridley lets you focus on other aspects of your team in the draft for your first and your second round pick this year. W. That is the type of long term thinking move that I don't expect from Trent Baalke. So the fact he actually made this is probably the most stunning thing of them all. But overall, getting the talent, and if it pans out, great move by Jacksonville.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a great move for Jacksonville. Like Jurg mentioned, you don't gotta use your next offseason to kind of look for a number one pass catcher, because I think when Calvin Ridley's playing, he's a superstar at the wide receiver position. Obviously, he gambled, so he got suspended for a year, which is nuts. But next year they're gonna have an offense with a number one receiver in Calvin Ridley. They'll probably go back in the offseason, whether they draft or free agency, to get a better number two. Although they do have Christian Kirk, who's been pretty solid this year, although I still think they overpaid him. They'll probably add another pass catcher there, and having that pass catcher, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram has been pretty good at tight end, and then you have obviously the superstar in the making, Travis Etienne, in the backfield. I think this offense has the making to be extremely explosive. Um, the draft capital or the money that you were going to use for a number one receiver like Calvin Ridley, you could use to improve your offensive line, which obviously needs help. You get Cavalier at a discount, and if he doesn't play or he doesn't pan out, like the conditions aren't where it really hurts you. At most, you're giving up a second round pick for a guy who's when healthy and when playing, he's a top 10, top 12 kind of wide receiver in the NFL. So I absolutely love this for the Jags. For the Falcons, kind of sucks giving away Calvin Ridley, but then again, you have Drake London, who you just drafted this year, so you invest a lot in him. So I get that you could kind of give him away, and maybe you'd even want to bring him back for the optics of it. Like, you don't want to bring back that kind of drama or risk any drama happening around that team. So I get giving away, but man, if the Falcons got a quarterback this offseason, a young quarterback, having an offense with Drake London, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, and Cordell Patterson would be extremely fun to watch. Sad we won't see it, but I think that Jaguars offense now next year has the makings to be a really fun offense.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that this is a fair trade for both teams, actually. All right, final trade that we're going to talk about: the Dolphins. Let's go, baby. They trade for Bradley Chubb from the Denver Broncos. So they get Bradley Chubb and a 2025 fifth from Denver. And in exchange, they give a 2023 first. It's San Francisco's first, by the way, that Miami owned. And Denver also gets a 2024 fourth and Chase Edmonds. Yeah, so, fellas, I guess the main takeaway here is that the Dolphins get Bradley Chubb. They get their pass rusher. I think the Dolphins, now that Tua's back, they were, I believe, 3-0, 4-0 when Tua was there.
They're playing well. They are.
They're playing well, surpassing expectations. That offense is great. They have their pass rusher now. I'm bullish on the Dolphins. I am. This is a kind of going all in type of move for them. They clearly believe in what they have. They think they could win it. They could go far with the group they have, and now they just strengthen that core. Look, it's a two-team race in the AFC with the Chiefs and the Bills. There's a little bit of a gap after those two, and I think the Dolphins may have been the one to kind of, shorten that gap. I think they're the ones that are kind of right after that. Maybe I'm missing a team there, but that's the one team I personally have confidence in. So this is a solid move for the Dolphins. I guess for Denver, you're just trying to make up the capital you lost for for Russell Wilson. We kind of talked about it earlier, but like, why would they trade Jerry Jeudy? I guess they're trying to get all the capital that they lost for Russell Wilson, and I think this is like kind of step one. There was rumors that they were looking for two. They got one, and they're lucky they got one, but it's a first nonetheless. It's a first round pick nonetheless. It's still solid. So, Dame, talk to me. What'd you make of this move?
Um, I love it for the Dolphins. Clearly they don't need much help on the offensive end, like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Their running game works as long as it's in McDaniel's scheme. Tua has looked great when healthy. Their offensive line hasn't been the reason for their struggles either. They've been pretty solid. And their defense, they can always use work. Their secondary hasn't been as good, and they really don't have that true pass rusher to get after the quarterback, specifically Josh Allen in that division. So I think going out and getting Bradley Chubb is a steal for them. Not a steal, but it's a great deal because they did pay the price. They did pay a first and fifth, I think, or fourth, whatever the case may be. They did give up what they should have gave up. Again, for the Broncos, it doesn't make sense. Give up a guy like that, a cornerstone of your defense. But for the Dolphins, it does. They're reportedly going to get an extension done with him as well, so they're going to keep him around there for a while. But man, Dolphins, they're just a team that goes for it. Clearly, I mean, you go out and get Tyreek Hill in the offseason. You go get Bradley Chubb at the trade deadline. You get two franchise cornerstones on your offense and defense from the offseason to the trade deadline. And I mean, kudos to their general manager and front office because this is exactly how I want my team to be run if they're anywhere close to.
I mean, they
What?
had their controversies. I don't know. The Dolphins aren't the most ideal
I thought
franchise.
my audio went out. I got shook because I touched the wire by accident. I got super shook.
No, that was just Chris's like weirdly pitched voice.
Yeah, my bad.
Well, regardless, sure they've had their problems in the past with the way they run, but this past year, I guess, this past 365 days, um, I really like what they done, and adding Bradley Chubb, I think, is gonna do great things for them on defense as long as he's healthy, of course, because he's had his injury problems in the past. But as long as he stays healthy, gives him that edge rusher off on the defensive line to get after elite quarterbacks, specifically in that division or in that entire conference, because we know how good that conference is and how many great quarterbacks there are there. So when it comes to the playoffs, they're gonna have that guy to get after a quarterback and give their cornerbacks um, less time for the receivers that they're going to get open, which will help their secondary as well. So I really like this move for the Dolphins and for the Broncos. Clearly, they just don't know what they're doing, and clearly they're just trying to make up for the mistake that they made.
I love both trades for the Dolphins that they made. Just real quick as to why the Jeff Wilson one I like and how it ties into the Bradley Chubb deal. Actually, I forget if it was Pro Football Focus or NFL Next Gen Stats. I think it was NFL Next Gen Stats that through their advanced tabulations, um, Chase Edmonds has cost the Dolphins 100 rushing yards this season, just from I think missing block like wide open lanes, not getting yards expected per play. I think the Dolphins in terms of yards expected either per game in the running game or per rush are actually one of the worst teams in the league. And Chase Edmonds has been a big part of that. You get a guy in Jeff Wilson who's familiar with McDaniel, who's familiar with this running scheme, and a Dolphins running game that has actually looked better in the last couple of weeks because Raheem Mostert is going off. You have Mostert and Wilson who have chemistry from their time in San Fran. I think that was a great trade. Now you move on to the Bradley Chubb deal. This is clearly Miami going all in. They understand that Tua's on a rookie contract. They understand that like these are the moments in the NFL when you have a young quarterback who's looking good on a rookie deal and you need a piece or two to make it happen. Like this is what I like. I like teams that are willing to take that chance to try to make a run. They're 5-3. They're tied for second in the AFC East. They're a favorite to make the playoffs, and they have it in their minds that they could go on a deep run. I love the confidence of this team. I love what this organization is exuding as a whole. This is an absolutely great deal. The big thing with the Bradley Chubb trade, what he provides is he provides a little bit of insurance for the defensive back crew because Xavier Howard, I think, has missed games this season and Byron Jones has been hurt. Or it's the other way around. Byron Jones has missed games and Xavier Howard's just been playing hurt. It's one of those guys has dealt with one of those, the others has dealt with the other. But the defensive back crew has not been healthy. That's kind of why they've been underperforming this year. You get a guy in Bradley Chubb who will help with the pass rush, let them meet and blitz a little bit more, which is what I think they want to do over there. Amazing acquisition for them. Bradley Chubb, who's been healthy this year, who's having a career year, especially the health part is a little bit of a aberration. He hasn't always been healthy throughout his career, so we'll see what happens come the offseason, but we're not thinking about the offseason. You're thinking about now. I think this is a bang-up A-plus trade for Miami to make, especially if Bradley Chubb can stay healthy and keep performing at the level he's been performing at this season. Just a phenomenal job by Chris Greer, not just this year, but going back to 2021. I'm sure maybe Chris was going to say it, so I apologize if I'm stealing your thunder here, Chris, but the 2021 trade draft day swap where they essentially let the 49ers get Trey Lance. They've used those first round picks in the deal in general to get Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Bradley Chubb. Phenomenal job by the Miami Dolphins and phenomenal job by Chris Greer. This organization was heavily criticized during the summer. There were some doubts about what kind of team they would be this year. They've become a really good team. Let's see if they can keep it together.
And on that note, we move on from the NFL trade deadline and we move towards our Clowns and Crowns segment from week 6 to week 8. That's right, we've kind of missed the last 3 weeks. Bunch of shit. But we're back. All right, now let's go week by week, one by one. I think we start off with the clowns because let's start off with let's end off with winners. So I'll start off week 6 clown. I'm gonna go with the Denver Broncos. I think this is the game they lost to the Chargers, and I think Russell Wilson had a decent first half, and then just he didn't have a good second half. They just sucked the second half, and the Chargers ended up winning the game, and it was a winnable game. I don't think Justin Herbert had a touchdown, and the fact that you can't capitalize on a game where Justin Herbert doesn't have any touchdowns, you had a good first half, you didn't capitalize on it, you had a shitty second half, and just it's the story of the Broncos every week. It's like the defense carrying that team, offense just not showing up, embarrassing. So yeah, they Amazon, please take note. Just don't showcase any Broncos games next season. But yeah, Broncos clowns for week 6. Jurg, who are your week 6 clowns?
My week 6 clowns were the Arizona Cardinals for only putting up 9 points against the Seattle Seahawks. Look, I am all for the Geno Smith future Seattle Seahawk Ring of Honor hype train. I'm pretty sure I've started that on several podcasts now. But Arizona, come on. This is the same Seattle team that led up 45 to Detroit. Come on, bro. How do you only score 9? I think, is it this week or next week where the Cardinals face the Seahawks again? You got to get redemption for yourself. You got to score more points and you got to get the victory there. But week 6 Cardinals, only 9 points against that Seattle defense. Clowns.
So clown for week 6, I'm gonna go with Tom Brady. They lost to the Steelers, which is clearly embarrassing. Everyone knows how much we share on the Steelers on this podcast, and how I predicted this for the past 4 years, but it clearly looks like it's Tom Brady's downfall this year. But even when you're not the same quarterback or player you used to be, you should not be losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jets didn't even lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, there's no reason you, as Tom Brady, with Leonard Fournette, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, guys like this, there's no reason you should be losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he's absolutely my clown for the week. Of week 6.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. Crowns, Dame. Yeah, what are your crowns for week 6?
For week 6, it's hard for me to say, but I'm going to go with the New York Giants as a team. This is the week that they beat the Baltimore Ravens, which was super impressive. Up to that point, I was saying how they're not as good as their record. I still don't think they're as good as their record, but I've said they haven't had a good win all season because I didn't count the Packers one as a good win because the Packers suck, and it was in London. But here they went out and they beat the Baltimore Ravens. Although they were home, it didn't really matter. The Ravens had the lead throughout most of the game, but the Giants, with their defense and special teams, got it done and had a big upset against the Baltimore Ravens and really their best win in the season. So cheers to the Giants, and they get my crown of the week for week 6.
All right. My crown of the week goes for week 6 goes to the Buffalo Bills. They beat the Chiefs, and I think this is the game in which they had to win. Like, for the confidence for this team, it was important for them to kind of beat the Chiefs. Like, this is the team they're going to have to beat eventually down the line. This is the team that they prepare for. And yeah, I know they beat the Chiefs last season in the regular season, but I think this one in particular, because both teams are kind of like known as the two AFC teams that everyone kind of expects to clash the AFC Championship. We'll see when we get there. I think this is a team to I think this is a game that they had to win in order to boost their confidence, in order to be like, okay, we're the front runner here. We kind of lead the AFC. They're behind us right now. Look, they got the job done too. So, and I think they stopped Patrick Mahomes at the end there to force an interception as well. So, my crown of the week 6 goes to the Buffalo Bills.
Nice.
Jurg?
I am glad I had a backup for my week 6 crown because I originally had the Giants, more specifically their defense. But to be different, because that's what we're trying to be here, I'll give it to Jamar Chase. He had 7 catches, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns against the Saints. A touchdown late in the third to get the Bengals close, and then the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter to put him ahead. Jamar Chase was really starting to catch steam before he got injured in week 7, and it really sucks because he was on his way for just an impressive season for himself. And hopefully when he gets back, he'll still be able to perform well. But yeah, he was my crown in week 6 for his amazing performance. 7 for 132 and 2 TDs.
All right. We move on over to week 7. All right. We'll start off with the clowns. My clown of the week for week 7. I think he's been a clown before on my list, personally, but it's going to go to Aaron Rodgers. Another L. And he lost to the Washington Commanders, which is embarrassing. Rodgers is a lost cause this year. What a disappointment. No further explanation needed. Clown. Aaron Rodgers is gonna make his way. I think he's a 2-time clown in my list. So shout out to Rodgers for just becoming the face of the clown tier in Chris's list. Jurg, who's your clown of week 7?
You put me in a little bit of a tough spot there because originally the Packers were my clown, so I gotta,
I mean,
I
you
got.
could go for them if you want.
I mean, I know I could, but I'm trying to be a little bit different here, and I want to call an audible on that one. And I think I know who Dame's clown is going to be, and I don't want to take that from him either.
Okay.
So if I'm going to give a clown, you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this. I'll say Bill Belichick because he started Mac Jones in the Bears game, and he should have just gone straight with Bailey Zappi. I think Mac Jones is clearly cooked. I think his starting career should be over. We hail Bailey Zappi over McCorkle Jones on this podcast and any other podcast that I'm on, essentially. Check in on weekends, ladies and gentlemen, for that. But yeah, I'm going to go with Bill Belichick deciding to start Mac Jones in that Bears game. There was absolutely no reason to. Bailey Zappi was doing fine. Yeah, that's what it is. I can't believe I'm saying it. Bill Belichick got a clown for me. He was my clown for week 7. That was a bad decision.
I mean, you did steal my pick because I was going to pick the Patriots as a whole
See?
for that
Oh,
absolute debacle. But
I'm
regardless, I
sorry.
had a backup plan. I just didn't want to go with him back-to-back weeks. But I'm going to go Tom Brady again. I'm just shitting on Tom Brady this episode, but I mean, he
Nice.
went
He deserves it.
back-to-back weeks losing. He went back-to-back weeks losing to the Steelers and the Panthers. And the Panthers game might have even been worse because he didn't even throw a touchdown pass. They scored 3 points against the Carolina Panthers and lost 21-3. He threw the ball 49 times and had 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns. Great, he didn't throw a pick. 0 touchdowns throwing the ball 49 times against the Carolina Panthers. I just want to put an emphasis on all the things I just said. He threw for 290 yards, sure. Didn't reach 300 yards. He threw the ball 49 times and didn't get any of these statistical marks for a QB. So Tom Brady, again, back-to-back, congratulations, my clown of the week for week 7.
All right. We move on over to our crowns of week 7. Mine is to kind of rebound off Dame. PJ Walker.
Nice.
Um, he
Nice.
beat Tom Brady. He led the Panthers to beat Tom Brady and the Bucks. 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, 16 for 22, 177 yards. Oh yeah, and he beat Tom Brady, and it's PJ Walker. So look, the starting job is his now. Good for him, but that is a statement victory. What a way to kind of just guarantee the rest of your season, just to beat Tom Brady. PJ Walker might have climbed to the starting quarterback position quicker than Tom Brady's marriage falling apart. But neither here nor there.
All
That's my
right,
that's
all
my
right,
crown of the
all
week.
right.
Dame, who's your crown?
So my crown of the week for week 7 is going to be Josh Jacobs. He went crazy against the Houston Texans, but it also seems like every running back goes crazy against the Houston Texans. Um, he went for 20 rushes, 143 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's incredible. Whoever has him in fantasy, I don't. But if you had to play him, that kind of sucked. But if you had him, man, were you happy that week? But big shout out to Josh Jacobs, Alabama guy. Great day on the ground for him, which he's had multiple games like this season too. It's not just one outlier. But crown of the week, Josh Jacobs, great game.
My crown for week 7, clarify for the people, that was Dame's week 7 crown right there. My week 7 crown is Joe Burrow. Broadway Joe 2.0, Joe Cool 2.0, whatever we want to call him. Absolutely phenomenal job in week 7 against the Falcons. 400 plus passing yards, nearly 500 yards just through the air alone, 3 passing touchdowns. Technically, with the 20 rushing yards and 1 rushing TD, he had a 500 total yards game and a 4 total TD game, which I think he's the only one to do those stats in some way, shape, or form in NFL history. So amazing game by Joe Burrow. Absolutely crushed the Falcons, and that was a big victory, especially from what we learned after the game, which Jamar Chase is going to be missing time. Joe Burrow, crown for week 7. Good for you, Joey B. He's been on, aside from the Browns game, he was actually on a good streak for a little while after that first Steelers game. He was doing good. So Joe Burrow, my week 7 crown.
All right. Final week in which we missed, week 8. My clown of week 8 is Zach Wilson. Man, that was a brutal game to watch, and a must-win game, I would say, against the Patriots. And it would have been such a statement victory for them. Kind of beat the Patriots. You go 6-2, and then Zach Wilson has a performance like that. He had a pretty decent first half, and then just second half, he just spiraled out of control. He had 2 touchdowns, but he had 3 interceptions. Some of the worst interceptions I've seen, and it was disgusting. Oh man, and brutal to watch. Jets lose; they fall to 5-3. They have the Bills next. Just awful all around. So that is my clown of the week for week 8. Jurg, who's your clown? Dame, who's your week 8
You
clown?
kind of stole mine, so you got to go to Jurg real quick because I
Okay.
didn't think.
Jurg.
Oh well, I had mine locked, loaded, and ready to go. Russell Wilson on a plane allegedly. Yeah, this is. I swear to God, I'm not even joking. I genuinely like. I'm sorry. I don't use this word. I kind of hate this guy right now. Like I genuinely, he's a shithead to me. Him and his PR team, all of their whole Team 3 crap, on an 8-hour plane ride.
Team 3.
I was watching 8-hour plane ride. I was watching film. I was again worked on by the trainers, and for however long he said, I was doing high knees on
Bro, high knees?
a
Bro,
plane.
go to sleep.
On a plane, and then after that, he said he watched a little bit more film, and then he finally only napped for like the last hour, an hour and a half of that. If you don't get out of here with that, like honestly, I'm shocked we didn't get a Ike. God, I forget how to say his. What's the name of the linebacker that cold cocked Geno Smith a couple years ago, boys, and broke his jaw and cost him the starting job in New York forever? Uh, in a Pale, something along those lines. I wish I remembered his name and B how to say his name. But I wish one of the Denver Broncos would have done that because it looks like like some of those guys have wanted to on the sideline for a little while now, and I really wish someone would just cold cock Russell Wilson, and I would have totally forgiven it, honestly. The stupidest thing in the world, high knees on a plane, and then he doubles down. That story came out before they did press conferences in London, and then he doubled down with the media that was there, be like, yeah, I did this and I did high knees on the plane. Fuck out of here with that. I'm done with this dude. Russell Wilson's my immortal clown of the week.
High knees on the plane is just jokes to me. Dame, do you have your clown, bro?
Yes, I'm gonna go Devontae Adams. I mean,
Ooh.
might have been the worst game of his career. He
He
went
came off
one
an
catch.
illness, bro.
I don't give a fuck. Then don't play because this is an embarrassing performance. Granted, I went against him in fantasy, so it was great for me. I had a big upset in my fantasy league this week, playing Devontae Adams. But 1 for 3 is ridiculous. Marshall Lattimore didn't even play. The Raiders got shut out. Not saying it's all Devontae Adams' fault, but
Yeah, that was
I
bad.
mean, you're the number one receiver getting paid $30 million a year. Show up, show up doing better than what you did. So he's my clown of the week.
Okay. Week 8 crowns. Now, can I just speak for all of us? We're in all unison, unless someone like kind of went different with their pick. I have Christian McCaffrey. Does
Damn it.
everyone else?
Yes.
Dame, do you have Christian McCaffrey?
As my crown, no.
Oh, okay. So I mean, Jurg,
I mean,
you know what?
that would have just been the obvious one. That's why I didn't really go with him.
Okay. Well, Jurg, screw it. Let's just go. Me and Jurg have Christian McCaffrey. One
right.
rushing touchdown, one receiving touchdown, and he threw for 1 touchdown. What a megastar of a running back. And look what happens when you get a change of scenery. That dude had a crazy game. It was crazy to watch. And luckily, I wasn't playing him in fantasy, so I'm good. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey was generational.
Yeah.
Week 8.
That was amazing. Can I give a backup?
Sure.
For if this somehow steals Dame, I would laugh, but I think I know who Dame's gonna go with. PJ Walker for me. If I had to give a different crown, it would 100% be PJ Walker. Back-to-back weeks, he played really well. He had that dime of a throw to end the game, which if it wasn't for DJ Moore being an absolute idiot and Eddie Pinheiro just missing the kicks, there's still some of that Chicago Bears kicker in him because he completely missed both an extra point and then a field goal in overtime. How do you shank both of those? Doing the brand dirty right there, Eddie. It would have been a phenomenal W for PJ Walker, and the Panthers would have been first place in the NFC South. So PJ Walker, if I did have to give a second crown, or like if I had to give like my own crown to be separate, PJ Walker would have gotten my crown of the week there. He was phenomenal. I'm happy for the should have been XFL MVP. He's balling right now.
My crown of the week is going to go to someone on a team that I don't show enough love to on this podcast and kind of shit on. Maybe it's a little biased because one of my close friends is a fan of theirs. But I'm going to go Tony Pollard. This was his first start where he started without Zeke being there, obviously. And for maybe 2 or 3 years, I've been saying that Tony Pollard is better than Zeke. And clearly this game shows everybody that he is. I mean, every time he touches the ball, whether Zeke's there or not, you just can see with your eyes that he's better than Zeke. And this game, he went 14 carries for 131 yards and 3 touchdowns. You know what the crazy part is? That after the game, instead of just saying we're going to work as a committee, Jerry Jones just came out and said that this team goes as Zeke goes. Like, I don't know if he was asleep during the game. I don't know what
he's
he was doing.
getting up there in age, brother.
He's an old guy. Maybe he was taking a nap during all the plays that Tony Pollard looked crazy. But Tony Pollard went nuts. And to say that this team goes as Zeke goes is ridiculous. And this is why the Cowboys don't win anything. Maybe Jerry Jones should have been my clown of the week. And I should have went with Tony Pollard as my crown. But irregardless, like Tony Pollard looked great. He looked super explosive, and clearly this is what happens when you give him the ball instead of the other fat old guy.
I can't think of a better way to end this episode. Yeah, well, that'll do it for this week. Jurg and Dame, great job as always. This was a fun episode. Jurg, where can they find us on the socials?
Oh, this was a top tier one, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want more episodes like this, you got to make sure you follow us because we always share on our Instagram, somewhat.sports, when the episodes are out on Spotify and YouTube, Somewhat Spaced and Sports on both of those platforms to be able to listen to the podcast. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify. Give us a rating. Let us know in the comments. What do you think of the show? What do you want to hear more of? Do you want more Chris, which is what I've heard that people want? Do you want more of Chris and Dame being at each other's throats, which is also another popular thing? Do you want me to shut up more? I mean, I'll gladly do that because I feel like I talk too much sometimes. Whatever you want to see more of on the podcast, we will listen to you. This is a podcast for the people, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost our 2-year anniversary. It's absolutely amazing that we've gone so far through this. I'm pretty sure by the time we record next week, it'll be around that time, and after next week's episode posted, it's going to be a whole thing. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, 2 years going strong. We want to keep doing this for 2 more, 5 more, 10 more, 20 more. And in order to do that, we need your support, ladies and gentlemen. So follow the best sports podcast out there today.
Beautifully put as always, Jurg. Beautifully put. Yeah, I guess that'll do it for this week. Once again, Jurg and Dame, you guys are awesome. To all of our listeners listening, if you made it this far, we appreciate you. And until next time, peace.